there ever a point in your career that you think, this is it, I'm gonna die?
Yeah, oh, many times.
Many times. Were you scared of dying at the time? You never really thought about it?
I was more scared of letting people down.
Wow.
That were counting on me. And it was this 32-foot tall being, beautiful, and it was so bright when it showed up that I went down, I had to cover my face, and I fell down on my face, and I started weeping uncontrollably. My life review, and a baby was on the screen, and I knew that was me. I don't know how you know, but you know things there. And I watched every second of my life from birth till the bathroom when I was taken. And when I watched my life, the things that he highlighted for me was the way that I made people feel. And it was in that moment that I realized that he was concerned about how my actions affected other people.
Welcome to M-powerTV, where we leave a legacy of hope through conversations that uplift, educate, and inspire. Listen to incredible stories of people who overcame challenges and barriers, celebrate victories, learn from setbacks, and push forward together.
And you would hear all this torture, and then they would shoot.
Want to be empowered? Let's go. Subscribe for more and get this book now.
Hello and welcome to M-powerTV. My name is Lorna Grayling and I will be your host today. Joining me in studio, Brandon Salazar. I met you about a week ago, right? And I have never in my entire life met anybody as interesting as you. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for those kind words.
Yeah. Brandon, you're a retired veteran. You were working in the national safety and security of our country, training CIA agents. And we're going to talk a little bit about your life-changing event that you had, near-death experience, right?
Yeah.
But take us back to your childhood. Where did Brandon come from?
Well, I was born in Louisiana, and quickly I was shipped off to Spain. My parents were in a F-4 fighter squadron in a base in Spain during Vietnam. And so I grew up in Spain, a little town out of Madrid called Torrejon. So my first language was Spanish. And during the day, when my parents were on base, I was babysitted by a shepherd and his wife, Evelina. And I spent long days out walking with the sheep and the shepherd and his staff on rolling hills and plains. And that's when I had a love for animals. That was the first very early experience of all these different farm animals and watching them come up, and the animals loved the shepherd. They followed him around everywhere. Everywhere. Yeah. And during other days, I would be raised by the other babysitters at the bottom of our apartment complex. I was almost a gypsy nomadic group of people down there, lots of different kinds of music. I grew up across the bullfighting ring, right there in Madrid. And so my first watching the sport, bullfighting sport, watching them poke this bull, wondering what's going to happen to this bull. And I didn't know what they did with it after that, but it was interesting. I remember growing up as a kid, 3, 4, 5 years old, and they would drag this bull out into the street, and the butchers would come out and chop it up into fine pieces, and they would give it out to all the poor people that were waiting in line that didn't have anything to eat. So
we don't know. I didn't even know.
Even after that big festival, I wondered what happened to this bull that fought the matador. And the answer is it's a sacrifice for the hungry people that are in town. They would line up, and all the butchers would come up and give them the finest meats and give them the first choice. So that was a unique and interesting experience.
Your parents were in the military, both of them, right?
Both
so they were
Air Force.
Stationed in Spain, and that's how you grew up there.
Yeah.
When did you get back to America? And
probably when I was 6 years old, moved to California for a minute, and probably a couple months, and then ended up in Florida. And then I went through elementary school, junior high, and high school right here in Florida.
Okay. All right. So you're pretty much native. You should be in a glass case. Not a lot of native Floridians. Everybody's from somewhere.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I grew up here surfing and windsurfing and doing all the beach sports.
Yeah. So tell me about your karate journey, because you were a national U.S. champion in karate, right?
That was a weird way that started. I couldn't speak English very well when I first came back here. And our family stopped speaking Spanish when I got here. My dad would not let us speak Spanish, so I could only speak English, and I knew it. It just wasn't, my words sounded funny, and the kids, you know, when you're in elementary school and junior high, kids make fun of you for talking funny, right? So that began with me and my brother getting beat up sometimes coming home. And I had never, a European way of living was a very, at least where I was very peaceful, kind, and very nurturing, you know. There I could sit on a bar stool at 4 or 5 years old and have a glass of wine with my parents. As long as you could see over the bar, you could have wine.
Yeah.
So every day when they
I grew up in South Africa, and it's very similar. Like, we grew up on wine farms, and you know, wine is paired with every single food. And so from a young age, you could get a little bit of wine with your food. I mean, it was just part of the culture. Yeah.
And you know, I was 4 or 5 years old. My parents had a nice suit and tie for me, and the bartender would have a booth seat so I could sit with them and get my glass of wine.
That's so funny.
And that's when I learned about siesta time.
Yes.
The whole country shuts down, and everybody passes around finger food, and we all eat snacks, crackers, cheese, and then we take a nap.
Yes. And then it becomes alive.
As a child, I'm supposed to take a nap, but the whole country took a nap with me. And then when I came to America, that's how this journey started with martial arts, is when I came to America, I was used to that nurturing culture. And America can be a little brutal and tough when you come, especially around kids. And so that was a culture shock. And I had never thought about balling my fist up and hitting someone. The act of any violence was just not in my space. I'd go home and tell my parents, they punched me in the face. You know, just kids bullying you on the way home. So at 12 years old, I got jumped by six teenage boys. They were 14 to 15. And my brother was 5 years younger. So I'm a 12-year-old with a 5-year younger brother, and they got bicycles, and they stop us on the side of the road, and they just start pounding me for like about half hour. So
because you see in the movies sometimes, right?
I send my brother home to get my parents, and he never came back. So I fought all these guys off, and something kind of weird happened. My father put me in the car. It's kind of in the old days. And he went and said, "Let's go find those boys." And they had broken my face. They broke my orbital socket, so my face was swollen like a pumpkin.
What's that?
And so we found the boys, and my dad said, "Well, I'm gonna ask you to fight all those boys one at a time instead of all 6 at one time." I said, "Okay, what is that, Dad? I don't know how to fight." He's like, "It's okay, son. I'm gonna show you how to do this." And so he pulls up to the gas station where the boys are hanging out. He goes in and tells the clerk, "You can call the police, but my son's going to be outside, and he's going to be fighting these boys that jumped him, but he's going to do it one at a time, fair." And so on the side of this gas station, in the grass dirt right there in front of my dad's car, my dad went and told all of them, "You can fight my son one at a time." And the last boy was 16. He was over my head. And so I had to fight all of them in front of my dad. And my dad said, "You know, if you lose this fight, when you get home, I'm going to beat you."
Wow.
I was like, okay. And my dad was a Vietnam vet. And so he was raising me in a pretty tough way.
Yeah. What did that teach you, though? What do you think that taught you?
In that moment, I wasn't learning anything other than I didn't want to get beat by them or my father. It was fear. I didn't learn anything at that moment. But after this passed, and my mom found out what happened, she went and put me in karate. And so at 12 years old, I started, and karate became a daycare for me. I didn't want to go home and take the risk of running on the school bus and meeting those boys again. So for the next 3 or 4 years, I got off school and went straight to karate. And I would stay there for 4 or 5 hours a day from the early afternoon until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And I would watch all the classes, the advanced, and I just wanted to be that next run. So I spent 4 or 5 hours every day for the first 4 or 5 years there. I wanted to get to a point where nobody could ever put their hands on me, including my father. My dad was an alcoholic from Vietnam, so he would put his hands on me and my mother, and I couldn't do anything about it. You know, at the age of a teenager, I was still super small, super skinny. And I wanted karate I really wanted karate so that nobody could hurt me or my brother anymore without us doing something about it, not just letting people put their hands on us, including my dad. One day I wanted to stand up to my dad when I saw him putting his hands on my mother. And that was the inward. I didn't want anybody to be able to hurt me or my brother anymore. So that was what karate was going to do for me. It was going to give me the physical skills to stop people from hurting me. And I became really good at it.
You did.
My sparring
You became the best.
My sparring partners were 6'7". There was two of them. They're still here in town. They're known. Iron Mike Schweitzer and Jim Hamera. And they were about 320 pounds, and they were almost 7 foot tall men. And those two guys took me under my wing, under their wing at 13. They stayed with me for 4 years. So I was constantly fighting men twice my size and a lot taller than me. So when I went into competition fighting teenagers my age, 15, 16, and 17, there was no comparison. They were super small, not as big, not as tough, so it made it easier. And there's something I want to tell you about after all these years, what I did with this. You know, before I competed in the U.S. Open, I decided one day that I wanted to confront my father in a very respectful way. I just came to him one day and I said, you know, Dad, I think I'm ready. Ready for what, son? I'm ready to take you on.
Really?
I don't want you ever putting your hands on me or Mom again, and I'm here to get an agreement from you. You're not going to put your hands on anybody anymore. And I didn't know at this time that I was adopted. So I'm a foot taller than my father. My father was a black Puerto Rican that adopted me when I was 1 year old. And so here I stand a foot over him, and I've been fighting men 3 times his size, and I'm ready to go in the front yard and show him you can't mess with me and Mom no more. And you know, with such grace, he looked at me, and I think I was very calm. I wasn't upset. And he looked at me, and I think he wanted to avoid this situation, but he also gave me some wisdom. He came out and gave me a Coke and sat down on the front porch. Let's just sit down and talk, son. He goes, congratulations. I don't know what he's congratulated me for. I'm ready to stand up to him. I want to fight him. And he said, congratulations, you now have passed your little test here. And I said, what test? He goes, the test of you not needing to do what you want to do. Sometimes what you want to do and what you can do are 2 different things. Just because you can do something. Brandon, we spent 6 years putting you through all this karate stuff. You have a lot of skills. You have to be responsible with that as you grow up. And you stood here as a young man and confronted me, and I appreciate that about you. That's something that you need to, but you're done here. You need to go off on the world on your own. And it was a really good bonding moment with my father at that point. And it was in that moment that I looked past him being a drunk. And he wasn't a drunk all the time. He would just, when he would get drunk, the Vietnam in him, and I didn't understand the horrors of war and what that could do to someone. We didn't know about PTSD or anything like that. We just thought, wow, when Dad gets drunk, he gets really angry. And I didn't understand.
There was no help back then, really, right?
Yeah, I did not understand what war does to a person. You know, I've been sheltered. I lived a sheltered life other than the karate dojo, sport karate. So little did I know that within 3, 4, 5 years from that day that I'd be experiencing my own warfare and my own traumas.
How did you end up in the military?
It's a good question. My dad was in the Air Force for 23 years. I wanted to go in the Air Force and be a fighter pilot, so I knew everything about planes. I spent the summers on the base with him at the hangar with all the fighter jets and on all the other things. I got to see him, and I spent 5 years in aeronautical space science at junior high and high school here in O'Galley. And I wanted to be a fighter pilot and eventually be an astronaut. So I went through those 5 years of aeronautical space science, and in my senior year of high school, I went to the recruiter's office to take my test to go in. And the recruiter said, you know, Brandon, your test, you did really good. You could pick almost any job in the military you want. You can do intelligence, we could give you top secret security clearance, but you're red-green color deficient. I said, what's that mean? He goes, well, it means you're not going to be flying fighter jets. You could fly cargo aircraft. I said, cargo aircraft, that's okay. He goes, what are you really good at? I was like, well, I've been fighting for the last 6 years. I'm good at punching, kicking, choking, and throwing people down when they're bullies. He laughed, and he goes, well, you could deliver food to troops that are in wartime in a cargo, or bring them to the fight. And I said, well, you know, I appreciate that. But is there anything else I could do that would be using my skills to in the right way? He goes, you know, maybe you should go talk to the Marine recruiter right down the hallway. I said, the Marines, what do they do? He goes, just go talk to him, you'll find out. So I go down there and have lunch with this guy, and that was it. I had all, you know, well, I'll kind of back up. I won the U.S. Open my senior year, and I got these 2 6-foot-tall trophies. They were bigger than I was. My parents helped me carry them out, and I was offered a job as a fight choreographer in Hollywood for movies, and also I was offered the audition for the White Power Ranger, which didn't exist at that time, and they were going to allow me to try out for it, and I wanted to be a Ninja Turtle in the suits and do this fighting in front of the camera. And the Marine recruiter said, you know, you could go do that, or we could train you how to use, you could choose your, why did you start karate, Brandon? And I said, to stop bullies from hurting me and my family. He goes, well, Brandon, there's some bullies around the whole world called terrorists. And again, I lived a sheltered life. I don't understand what any of this means. I don't know anything about warfare. I only know about bullies coming home from school. And they said, do you know anything about guns? I said, no, I don't know anything about guns. I've lived a peaceful life other than just sport karate. He goes, well, we'd have to teach you about that. And behind him was a videotape playing, and there was people jumping out of airplanes and jumping out of boats and jumping out of helicopters into the river with boats. I said, what is that? He goes, that's Special Forces in the Marine Corps. I said, well, that looks like a lot of fun, and I would like to do that. He goes, well, son, that's a volunteer unit. We're going to have to put you in infantry, and you're going to have to eventually try out for that. And infantry sounded like, I had just watched a movie with Charlie Sheen called Platoon, I think it was, and they sat in a foxhole, a hole in the ground all night long in Vietnam. And the whole night they were scared that the enemy was going to come and get them. He goes, Brandon, that's infantry. And I was like, well, what about the guys that go wake up the bad guys that don't sit in a hole all night? He goes, well, that's the guys in the TV screen. He goes, listen, Brandon, we can put you, sign up for that, but you're going to have to go through infantry. I said, okay. Put me through infantry. Just give me a chance to do that on the screen there. And little did I know, I did my Marine Corps boot camp. Because my training regime for martial arts was so intense, I was running 5 miles a day, every day. On a short day, 3 miles. That's as far as you run a boot camp, 3 to 5 miles.
So it was easy for you?
For me, the physical part was very easy.
What was hard?
Wondering why boot camp was uniquely funny. A lot of people were getting yelled at because they had no discipline and structure. My dad came from Vietnam, a military guy, so the structure and discipline part was there. Boot camp was easy, but then School of Infantry, and then I went to Special Forces School. Now that was a completely different story. That took all the physicality. Now 5 miles is not, that's a short day. 11 to 15 miles is a regular day.
Sure.
That took everything that I had. All of a sudden, all the physicality that I had before was not enough. It took everything, and there was so much that we learned at Special Forces School. I was in that pipeline for about a year, about 8 to 9 months of just schooling. And then I'm still in my first year of enlisting. I'm coming to the end of that year, and my number came up, and I got deployed to South America. So I was a point man at 19 years old with a machine gun on my chest with a bunch of older men behind me. I was the youngest guy on the team, and they're telling me to go in this jungle. And
what goes through your mind when you go through a jungle with a gun and you have no idea where you're going? And
I'll tell you what, I got a story for you. In Panama, they have this thing called the Jungle Operation Training Center that the Army puts on. And basically what it is people that are going to operate in South America jungles have to go to this course. It's a couple of weeks long. And they have a zoo there with all the jungle animals there. So you can see what's dangerous. They have an anaconda there. They got caimans there. They show the tarantulas. They want to show you when you're in the jungle, things not to touch and avoid. That's poisonous. That's poisonous.
yeah.
And they said, and they had howler monkeys, and they said, listen, the Marine instructor said, listen, when you guys are out there, you're going to have to watch out for these guerrilla fighters. He was talking about terrorists.
Oh.
I was so
You thought it was an actual gorilla?
I raised my hand and said, sir, I know that there's howler monkeys in this wood and little spider monkeys. Nobody said anything about a gorilla. And the guy looked over here, he goes, who owns this guy? And the Marine lieutenant in the back said, oh, he's mine, sir. He's like, I'll get with you later, Brandon. And so I was worried of these animals, and then to find out we were there, we were doing intelligence gathering on the FARC, the communistic insurgent group that was taking over the Panama Canal and doing drug running, weapons running, and human trafficking. And they were used to capturing American tourists sometimes, or Allied forces tourists, and capture them and our enemy, if you call it that, the FARC that we were collecting on, they travel in groups of 60 to 100, and they travel at night. We're only a force that's 8 to 12 folks, just for eyes and ears. And these were long-range reconnaissance patrols, no contact. So you cannot get compromised. Our goal wasn't to fight them, it was to collect on them. Find out where they're going, how they're moving the drugs, where they're moving people to, where they have hostages, report on that, and then let other teams, our teams or another CIA team or another Army team would come in and be the assaulters and assault the objective and rescue the hostages. And so I did that for about 2.5 years. I did 11 countries in South America twice. One year I did 11 countries. That took a year and a half, and then we went back again and did another 11 countries. And that trip culminated with going to Africa.
Yes.
So after the 11
You told me
countries, South
about
America,
that, swimming with the crocodiles, literally.
Yeah.
Crocodiles and sharks, right?
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about
I had
that.
no idea how. I cover in Florida, so we got alligators, right?
Yes.
And I think they're big until I got to Africa and saw that you guys have dinosaurs there.
They're huge.
They're as big
And
as
they're
our boat.
aggressive. They're very aggressive.
Very
also,
aggressive,
yeah.
very aggressive. Yeah, I remember the first day I saw one up close. We're in a 15-foot rubber boat. I'm the number one man, so I'm sitting on the right side up at the front. And when you turn your motors off and you're trying to be sneaky and clandestine, especially at night, you paddle your boat up river to get closer to your objective. And so it's important for all 8 of you to paddle at the same rate. So you're in stroke with the number one man. So all eyes are on the front corner of the boat to see what speed I'm paddling, and I stop because I see a crocodile that came up in front of the boat. From his eyeballs to his nose is about 3.5, 4 feet long.
Wow.
I couldn't believe how big the head was.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, and I turn around to the driver and I tell him, "Look to the front of the boat." And he looks to the front of the boat. He goes, "Look at the back." So I turn around and look at the back. This crocodile's tail is 5 to 6 feet behind our boat. So I'm sitting there in the boat and I realize this crocodile is longer than our boat. And I'm looking at the rifle. The rifle we have is an M16, which is a 22, it's a very small bullet.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the height of this dinosaur.
The dinosaur.
I'm
not gonna kill the dinosaur.
Well, I'm realizing I grew up watching Discovery Channel, a very, very sheltered life. We could only watch cartoons, National Geographic, Discovery Channel. There was no sitcoms, there was none of that. It was just all educational. So here I am looking at a beast that can grab a buffalo by the head and pull it into the water, pick it up and pull it in. And we just slowly move away from the crocodile. They were very aggressive. They would come and check you out anytime we were in the water, and they're telling us, when we get upstream, we're going to be swimming in this water. And so as we were in those areas, we tried as a team to stay very close to each other to look like one big animal.
Yes.
And get through the water as quick as we could.
They threw you in once, right? Told you to swim by yourself.
Yeah. As a point man, you're always going into whatever it is first. And so if we were on the boat and it was time to get in the water, they would want me to jump in the water, feel how deep it is, report back to them, and they would follow me in.
Oh my God.
So
Well, you just saw the crocodiles the previous day. You gotta get in. What? Oh my gosh. There's gotta be like a screw loose, right?
There's
part of the job. You just gotta do it, right?
Well, in training to become a special operator Marine, training is dangerous. There was a lot of times during training you could die.
Wow.
In helicopter training, jumping out of airplanes, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. So I always said to myself, I never thought I would die in training. It's just not. We're not in combat yet. What I didn't realize is that the environments that special operators operate in, especially in jungle and deserts, are sometimes more dangerous than the mission they sent you on.
Wow.
Just getting there could kill you.
Yes.
The animal life, the flora, the fauna could kill you.
Yeah.
And after Afghanistan and Iraq, that was full combat in a city. But prior to 9/11, we were in a lot of countries spying on these terrorist organizations we would later go hit. And so a lot of these camps and stuff are in the middle of nowhere. Just getting to them without being seen, is a very dangerous thing. And Marines, we never sleep on dry land. We always find a swamp. Everywhere we sleep at night, we find a swamp to sleep in, because no one's going to come looking for you in a swamp at night.
Yeah.
But you got to deal with the swamp critters. So, I operated in 23 countries. And I swam with a lot of apex predators.
Was there ever a point in your career that you think, this is it, I'm gonna die?
Yeah. Oh, many times.
Many times. Were you scared of dying at the time? You never really thought about it.
I was more scared of letting people down.
Wow.
That were counting on me.
Sure. Powerful. There's a lot of people that feel that way. That they'll literally go beyond what they should to not let people down. But you did end up dying. And you saw.
I did end up dying
you saw
in
heaven.
a strange way. In a
Tell
strange
us
way.
about
Not in the expected way of dying.
Yeah.
My death was a supernatural one, actually.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, tell me about that.
So, after the Marine Corps, I came back, and I was unhappy with the level of training that they were doing in the Marine Corps base here at Camp Lejeune. So I asked the officers, I just got back from Africa and South America, we're going to have to train these men better. And they said, Brandon, why don't you go become an officer? You've been in for long enough, you've got already 2 years of credit, go become an officer. So I go to college, and I meet this other Special Forces Marine who's 15 years my senior. And 9/11 happened right when I met him. And he said, Brandon, I'm going to open up the world's #1 combat training center. It's going to be the most dangerous training that the military has ever seen. We're going to do it in a safe way. Why don't you stay here with me? So I continued to go to college with the intention to go back in the Marine Corps. But within the first year of doing this, our first client was SEAL Team 6. And right here in Melbourne, Florida, we had 9 secret training locations. The county, after 9/11, helped us zone 9 secret training ranges for Special Forces to train in. And I did this for about 15 years. And at one point, we needed to move the company closer to Fort Bragg, the largest special operation base in the world. And in that move, our small company spent $3 million. And it was a lot for a small company. So in that cost us enough money to where we either had to lay off 1/3 of the company to continue operations, or the officers of the company would take a hit on our paycheck. So it was 5 of us, we all went down to 25% of our salary for the next 2.5 years.
Sure.
And so I have my home in Florida that I bought after the Marine Corps, and I have a rental property in North Carolina. It became very expensive, and I'm working 7 days a week. At this point, I had been working for 15 years. I've never called in sick.
Sure.
We're working 7 days a week. 4 of those years without pay at all. In the last 2 years, my 25%. Because the mission of America and saving the world from these terrorists.
It was your life.
I took that oath, and nothing was more important than protecting people that couldn't protect themselves. So I took that job very seriously, but it came to a point where I still had to pay my bills, and now I'm living in 2 states. And so I called a friend up from Florida to come visit with me in North Carolina. I'm living in a house out in the middle of the country, and a couple trailers behind me, but I was in a brick home, and I was lonely, and I called him up there to come and have a weekend with me and watch some Netflix movies, barbecue, and he did that. We got done on the first night watching a movie, and I go to put my dogs in the bedroom, and I walked by this picture of Jesus that I had. My grandmother had given it to me when I was a baby, and it had a little nightlight for a baby. But it was a large metal picture frame, and it had him on the cross. And it's the first time in my life that I carried it everywhere. Every country I went to, I had it with me. But, you know, you're traveling. So now I had a place to put it up on the wall. And when I walked by it, I looked at it. And it's the first time I ever really looked at it, other than being an infant in a crib. And I saw it. And I went over to him, and I grabbed the painting, and I said to it, I said, I don't know if your name is... And so now I'm financially distraught. I'm working 7 days a week. I can't pay my VA loan that I bought my house with in the rental property. And I need some guidance. You know, I don't want to quit my job. I love working with these troops. I grab the painting, and I say, or the picture, and I say, I don't know if your name is Jesus, Jehovah, Yahweh, Joshua. I don't know what your name is, as I hear many names. And people say they hear and see you. And if you have time, I would like presence in front of you. I would like to hear and see you, if you could. And I closed my eyes, and I listened, thinking I would hear something. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to miss it. So I opened my eyes, and I looked down the hall. And then I didn't know what I was looking for. What am I going to see? A ghost or something? An apparition?
Yeah.
And I would look for about 10 seconds. And then I just do a very, I sigh like that, let go of the picture, and I go finish my night. I'm going to go brush my teeth and go to bed. And I walk by my dogs, I see them, and I go to brush my teeth, and I see a flash of light in the ceiling, and I thought it was a light, and I look up, and I have no light bulbs in the ceiling. This is a house that I'm renting. The lights are above the mirrors. So I'm looking up, and what is that? I go back to brush my teeth, I grab the toothbrush, and another light flashes, but this one looks like it comes from my face. And I put the toothbrush down, I look at my face, and I thought I saw something right here, so I open my eye up, and I get close to the mirror, about 6 inches away, and I look into the black part of my eye, and this is where the supernatural experience started. I look into the circle part of my eye, that black part, and I'm peering in there. I thought I saw a light in there, and as soon as I look and get close to the mirror, my essence, my soul, my spirit is sucked out of my body. Now I'm going through a black tunnel, and there's light all in the tunnel. It's a tunnel of multicolored light, and I feel like I'm in a water slide going up and down, left and right. This only goes for about 4 or 5 seconds, and I'm standing in the bathroom again. And now I'm in an impossible place. I'm behind the toilet. And I look down, and there's a man laying on the floor, and his back is to me. And I ask myself, well, how is that? Who is that? And I hear a voice that says very loud, and it came from every direction, "You're dead." And I said to myself, well, how could I be dead? And the voice says, "You're dead," again. And I look over, and it's me. It's my face. I'm wearing my clothes. And as soon as I realized it was me, I felt this pinch right here, both my arms, and I'm being lifted up to the ceiling. Now, I have no body. I don't have hands or legs, but my presence, my consciousness is still rising. I can see the ceiling getting closer to me, so I duck a head that I don't have, and then I'm in the attic, and I can see. It's pitch black, but I can see perfectly, and I don't understand this. And I'm still rising an inch every second, a foot every second, and I'm on the top of the house. I see the roof, and I'm spun around. I'm looking at the night sky, and there's some clouds and the moon, and we fly. I feel like I'm in a helicopter with the doors open. We're flying straight to through the clouds, and they took me to the star that doesn't move in the night sky, Polaris, the star that sits still over the North Pole. We flew right up to it, and I was watching as it was getting closer. We were flying really fast. We flew past all the planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. And I turn around and look behind me, and I see Earth just getting smaller and smaller. Now I don't know what's happening. I didn't remember them saying that I was dead. I just grabbed the picture and asked for presents. And we stop. All motion has stopped. I'm standing on a black floor, and there's black in every direction. And when I look in front of me, I see why I've been stopped. There's a curtain of stars. All the stars we see in the sky was on one plane, and they were spaced out. And I looked at them, and in my experience, they were all, I guess you call them angels. They looked like people, beautiful, and they were just frozen. And those were the stars, little ones and big ones. They were angels, just hovering, suspended in heaven, looking. And I could hear what they were thinking when I was close to them. I didn't understand how we communicate at this point. So then we keep moving. I feel the pinch here and here again. We keep moving. And now I get to this place where my experience is going to begin and end all right here. And I'm again in the black place. There's black in all directions. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm sitting there, and I look to my right, and I see something that's blacker than black. And it's like a mist. And I hear the sounds of millions, maybe billions of souls and people yelling and screaming, being tormented. And above all their yells, I hear this sound. I never heard this. The teeth slapping together. Later on, I would find that that's the outer darkness, the gnashing of teeth. And I hear that, and I'm horrified by it, and I turn away and look straight. And when I look straight, I see one star, and it's dancing like a UFO. It's just moving along. I'm looking at it, and I said, what is that? And as soon as I ask myself, what is that? This thing comes to a stop, and it comes right to me. And it was this 32-foot tall being, beautiful. And it was so bright when it showed up that I went down. I had to cover my face, and I fell down on my face, and I started weeping uncontrollably. And as I was weeping, I looked down, and I saw these beautiful 3-foot feet on either side of my body. And I wanted to know what that was part of, and I looked up, and there was an angel here and an angel here. Their heads were bigger than a lion, and they were the ones that were holding me, and it was their middle finger and their thumb holding me like this, and their fingers were about 18 inches long and about that big around, and they were the ones that picked me up. And now that this entity is standing in front of me, I can see these two, and I want to look at this character in front of me, and I can't because it's too bright. I can only look right at the edge of the toes. And I noticed that this being that was in front of me dimmed itself. It dimmed itself to a lesser light. And I could now start putting my eyes on it, and I worked my way all the way up the body, and I went right to the chest, and I could see it was wearing a nice flowing gown, toga, you know, a robe, and he had a purple sash from his left shoulder down to his right hip. And I wanted to see who it was. I wanted to look at the face, but I was a little nervous. And I took a chance, and I looked up at the face, and it was the face that was in my picture. And he had laser red eyes, and I was scared. And this entity knew I was scared. I wanted to know how big he was, and before I could ask him, the answer came in my head: 32 feet tall. Wow. Well, how big are these 15 feet tall?
Just like your thoughts. Like you could read your thoughts, right?
They could read your thoughts, and before you ask the question, the answer is already in your head.
Wow.
And so I didn't know what was to become of this situation. I see this thing here, and I asked him a question. I said, "Are you God?" He said, "I am." I had just 120 seconds earlier in my hallway, when I grabbed the picture, was confused about what name. Jesus, Joshua, Jehovah, Yahweh, all these names. So I'm still thinking like a human. I'm waiting for the noun. I am Lorna. I am Brandon. Well, it didn't come. So I asked out of ignorance again, "Are you God?" "I am." And he spoke up with a thunderous voice, and I took it that his name is I Am.
I am. And I love it. And even when I spoke to you, you know, I love how you speak about I am, because
I didn't know what that was in this moment. I had never read the Bible, gone to church with my parents as a kid. So when he said I am the second time, he spoke up, and he spoke up with a thunderous voice, and it was like the cosmos' largest thunderclouds. Thunder struck all over the sky where we were at. And we went right back down to our face. I think I slightly annoyed him when he said that, because he had to raise his voice. And we fell back on our face, and then he said, "Stand up, don't be afraid." And he asked me, he's like, he says, "I want to show you something." And he shows me my life review, and a baby was on the screen, and I knew that was me. I don't know how you know, but you know things there. And I knew that was me, and I watched every second of my life from birth till the bathroom when I was taken. And when I watched my life, the things that he highlighted for me was the way that I made people feel, my conversations with people. And it was in that moment that he'd take me back to a couple episodes in high school where I was mean to some ladies. Sure. And I said some unkind things to them. But instead of me watching as a fly on the wall, which is how it started out, I'm watching this scene of a younger Brandon and these other people. But within the first second or two, I was the people that Brandon was talking to, and I could see Brandon's young finger in my face. I became the people that heard what Brandon said. And what I didn't understand was the things that I had said to those ladies affected them for the next year or two of their self-confidence, their self-esteem issues. They didn't date men because some of the things I had said to them. I was angry that day. And it was in that moment that I realized that he was concerned about how my actions affected other people. And after I got done watching it, I looked at him, and now the two angels are standing next to him. It's just the three of them there, and he's much taller than them. And I was waiting for them to judge me and how my life was, and they have no judgment. I looked at them after seeing Life Review, and I said, I could have done a lot better. Wow. And if there's an opportunity, I'd like to go back and try. And I Am said, you can stay here with us, or you can go back. And I asked, well, what's to become of me if I stay here with you? And he didn't tell me what would become of me in that place. He says, well, they would find your body having a heart attack on the floor, and your mother would come get you and have your body buried in Florida. And he said, is that okay with you? And I said, I really don't want to put my mother through that. If there's any way that I could go back, be a good son, and live my best life for her and for everyone, I'll do that. And when I go back, I'm going to tell everybody about you, I am. And he kind of snickered a little, and he goes, you know, it's not going to work out the way you thought. And I said to him, I said, you're so beautiful here with your angels. You know my life. I've lived a whole life of warfare for 15 years, 20 years at that point. And I said, you know, if you showed up on the lawn of the White House, there would be, with your angels, the way you look right here in front of me, there would be no more wars, there would be no more famine, no more hunger, no more nothing. We would just get along in your glory. He looked at me, he goes, I already did that. And they didn't listen to me. And in this moment, I was upset at humans, because he's so beautiful and so loving. His love was radiant. As I got closer to him, it was like the warmth of a fire. The closer I got, the more love that I felt from him. And it was love like we don't experience here on earth. Not just a love of a wife or a sister or a mother, but all of that and a bunch more love we don't understand. And I was upset with humans in that moment, and I said, well, you know, if I go back, sir, I called him sir. I wanted to be formal. Sir. I said, sir, if you send me back, I'm gonna tell everybody about you. I'm just gonna tell them. Yeah. And he goes, that's not gonna work out the way that you think. And I was like, and I said, well, I'm still gonna go try it. Yeah. I gotta try it because if they saw you like this. So I realized now he's not gonna come back with me. I'm gonna have to go back and tell people my story about myself, that I met him, and it's not just
And how did that work out for you?
Oh my gosh, it was horrible. I immediately went to work and started telling some close friends, and got chastised and mocked at work. I ended up leaving work temporarily for a couple of years, came home, did some self-development, went back to school and did some more education, and came home and told my friends and family that were Christians, and they thought
They were Christians, right?
Yes, they were Christians, and I would tell anybody, and but most of the Christians were like, well, what alcohol have you been drinking? Did you hit your head? And I thought, you guys carry this book under your arm and you don't believe. And so it took me a long time to find. I went and talked to rabbis, pastors, preachers, and it was my girlfriend at the time, my Jamaican girlfriend at the time, that went to church every week, and she had her Bible tabbed out, marriage, food, all different kinds of topics. And I told her the story in great detail. And she says, everything you're saying and the names of the things are in the Bible. And I was like, in the Bible? Because I knew I had met this character named I Am, but I didn't know who I Am was. I never heard that name. And when she opened the book, she showed me, you know, Enoch and Ezekiel and Elijah and these other prophets that flew. And I realized now, wow, that was a very godly experience. But it wasn't religious. It could have been for anyone. It didn't. He called himself I Am. He could have called himself Jesus for me. He looked like Jesus, his love. But I realized that dying wasn't a religious thing. And somehow I have to go and tell everybody in any religion that there is a higher being in another place other than this that we come from, and that is filled full of love and potential. Yeah. And that's a very challenging thing to come out and tell people, because most people, and they mocked me.
Especially being a veteran, right? I mean, you're in war.
Here's this tough guy coming in talking. He's like,
lived this life. I mean, which very few people get to live, right? Yeah. And now you're coming out with a spiritual experience. So how did you find the middle way? Right, to continue living your life, yet knowing the spiritual truth, and then, because that sometimes is a struggle, right, bringing the two together.
You know, I stopped trying to tell people about the experience, and I just chalked it up to maybe that experience was for me. Maybe it was for my development. I was at a weak time in my life. I needed some companion. I'm out in the middle of the country. At this time, I've been away from my family for 20 years. Left high school, so I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. I'm really all mission oriented, and I had no personal time, no feel good time. And so when I gave up on trying to spread the message and focused on what I could do with the message for myself and for others.
Tell me about New York.
New York. There's so much detail in my near death that I'm leaving out because time doesn't really work there the way it does here. I suspect I was there for at least a day, but in Earth time I was only gone for 2 minutes before someone found me.
Wow.
On the ground.
Yeah.
So I was there for a whole day with him, and once I told him that I wanted to come home, and he said, "Your body's fine. I can put you back in your body and you're going to be just fine." And I looked, and he put the whole world on pause to put me back in my body. Birds were frozen in the air, cars were frozen, driving, people walking. And I was like, why are they not moving?
Like in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. He goes, well, I'm going to put you back in your body. We got to put you right back in the same spot. I'm like, okay, so you froze the whole world just so we could have this conversation. He goes, yes. Wow. He goes, I do this with a lot of people.
Wow.
And so this is happening with everyone at the same time. And so he goes, but I want to show you something. So he took me to an apartment building and said, I'm going to take you to a place. He took me to New York City. I had never been there before. I've been all over the world, but not to New York City. And we were standing in front of this one tall tower. I thought it was a skyscraper, but for business, but there was people living. It was an apartment complex. And the first people I could see through the window was a husband and a wife, and they were getting ready to have a baby, and they were decorating their baby's room and talking about the baby coming. And it was very joyous. They were super happy. And then I looked to another apartment, another window, and I could hear two young men planning their robberies for the day. They were going to go mug a couple people and steal their wallets. And I couldn't believe I was watching that right in front of IM. Like something's going to happen to them. And then I looked at the next one, and I could hear up to 400 conversations in this apartment complex happening at the same time, and I wasn't getting confused. I could keep up with all of them. And I was realizing as long as I stood next to him that's what he was sharing, his powers, his abilities with me, so I could listen to what he sees.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed in humankind. There was great things in there, but there was more things that were not as joyful and as good as they could have been in that apartment complex. There wasn't as many good things that balanced it out.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed. I didn't know how to react in front of him. And he said, well, I want to show you some more. And we backed up, and we could see 3 or 4, we could see more buildings. And again, I could hear all of that and see all that. And then we backed up more until we saw the whole place of New York City.
Sure.
And I didn't know what that meant. I mean, is he going to help them? I wanted to help people. I can't help a whole city. Like, who's going to help them? And I felt a feeling of disappointment. I felt like we could have been better. If I could have had a microphone and talked to all humankind, I would have said, guys, we've got to do better. He's watching. He's right here. He loves us. He's providing everything for us, and we're doing this.
He wants to be part of our lives, right?
Yeah. He doesn't expect anything, I think, but a relationship. He just wants you to know that he's there, and it sounds weird, but he's watching. Not watching out of trying to get you in trouble, watching to, just like any good father would show up to your play and watch what you do. So we're living the best story in life, and he wants us to live our best lives, and we as humans forget that. Sometimes we get wrapped up in our careers and our personalities and our lives and our families that we forget we're part of a bigger family. We're part of a bigger family. And it don't start with us. We're the children. Even though we have our own children, we're the children in his story. His story, history. Wow.
Yeah, his story, history. I love that. And so how did you end up back in your body?
He put me back in my body. Well, the experience was over. He said I was going to send you back, and he put me back in my body. And when I came to, I wasn't laying on the floor anymore. I was kneeling down in front of the sink, and I was collapsed on the sink, and all the elements on the sink counter were on the floor. And I could only move my head and my mouth, and I couldn't move my arms. I was paralyzed, and I started screaming for my friend that came up to visit me from Florida. He came running in the room, and he grabbed me by the shoulders, said, please get me out of this bathroom, take me to my bed. And he drugged me to my bed and laid me on the bed. And he ran to go get a phone to call the ambulance because I was paralyzed from the neck down. Couldn't move anything. And I said, please, don't call the ambulance. Go get a piece of paper and a pencil and write down everything I tell you. And we started, he sat at my bedside and wrote the whole experience in great detail.
Wow.
It took 45 minutes for me to say every bit of detail. And when he put the pin on the last period, I had been trying to move my body the whole 45 minutes. And right when I said, okay, that's it, and he put the last period there, I could start wiggling my toes and my fingers. And during the 45 minutes, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I died and went to heaven as this guy that was a martial artist, a combat person, and now I'm going to come back as a quadriplegic. And at first I thought that would upset me, and I was like, listen, as long as I can use this and tell people about him, I'll be fine in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I'll still be I'll be the happiest quadriplegic out there. And sure enough, at the end of telling the story, he gave me the ability to move my body. It took me several hours to figure out how to walk again.
Sure.
The next 2 weeks were awkward. I was awkward. I didn't know how to talk. It was very awkward. Spending the day with him, and it was very painful to come back in your body. Very physically painful. When I started walking around the house, my whole body felt like I got hit by a truck. I realized that we're asleep here in some way. He said you're dead in your trespasses. We're alive there. This is like the dream. When you wake up from a dream, I got put back into the dream. But the dream is powerful and painful.
Yeah.
It sounds silly, but it took time to figure out that I couldn't just look across the room to move. I had to put one foot in front of the other. I spent a whole day or 100 years with him just moving by looking.
Yeah.
And now I have to move.
And now you can't.
That sounds so silly. So you had to learn how to be a baby
right?
again? It's like, well, I spent so much time there with him that when I came back in, I didn't want to have to walk.
Yeah.
The first day that I went to sleep,
Yeah.
the next day, after this event happened, I opened my eyes and I'm staring at the popcorn on the ceiling. I thought I was in heaven again. I forgot I was back on earth. When I opened my eyes, I saw just white and I thought, oh, I'm back.
Yeah.
And then I looked down and I saw my puppy sitting there in the fan, the chandelier, and I'm like, no, I'm in my room. Okay, I'm back on earth. For a minute, I thought that was a dream of me coming back. I'm still with him.
Yeah.
And then I realized, no, I'm here now.
Yeah.
And so I focused, and that's when I started
Tell us about that, because I know you guys have also created a brand new, it's to put in schools, right? To stop bleeding for the school shootings.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got so many things going on, and some of it is not yet been patented, so we won't
Right.
talk about that. But tell us a little bit more about this device that you've developed.
So after all these years of watching, I spent all my time training soldiers to go overseas. And when I come home here now after 20-something years, I realize America's in trouble. We've had school shootings after school shootings. I've watched it for 2 or 3 decades, and there doesn't seem to be any ability for law enforcement or EMS to end these things very quickly. And lots of people get hurt. And so I decided to use my skills, training, and my intellect to design something that would help make Americans more safe. So I created the world's first active shooter and medical integration response system, which has the world's first automatic tourniquet inside of it that works in 12 seconds with a push of a button, and it's designed to be used for single-digit children to apply to the arms and legs. And in that box, it also when they open the box, it automatically calls 911 and gets help coming with a verbal message of what's happening in a location. And it gives 300 text messages and emails to local law enforcement so that you can click on that notification, and just like a Ring doorbell, all the boxes in the classroom, you can look in and talk to the victims and do telemedicine and interact with the active shooter, talk them down or find out where he's at to end these things a lot quicker.
So the tourniquets, it's basically a strap, right, that goes around the arm or the leg or any of the injured areas, and then it applies pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very small, about the size of a pack of cigarettes with a flat strap. You slide it up your arm or connect it around your arm. You push that button and it cinches down in 12 seconds.
Gotcha.
And it knows how much pressure based on a child's size arm or up to adult's leg. And the amount of strap is out, it knows how much pressure. And it keeps applying that pressure for the next 5 hours until you get to medical help. So yeah, it's
going to save a lot of lives.
It's going to save a lot of lives.
This is amazing. How does it feel to be
lives.
part of this amazing life-changing company now? I mean, you're changing lives. But in a different way.
It feels good because opportunities like this get to tell me where it came from. It didn't come from me. All glory is given to him.
Yeah.
That's what it feels good. It feels good because whether people know it or not, I know inside me where that strength came from, and I want to honor that strength, and I want to be an instrument and a vessel for it. So all glory is given to our Father and Jesus. And
I love that. Brandon, we're almost out of time. You've been so amazing. One last thought that you want to leave with our audience.
Sure.
If you can tell them one thing, what would it be?
I would tell them that there is somebody that put us here, that created us, that loves us, and has been watching, and they just want the best for us. And anytime you're weak, or anytime you have fear, or you think you can't do it, go somewhere quiet, pick up the telephone, and talk to them. You don't have to do a ritual. You don't have to wear anything formal. You don't have to say anything special other than, hello, Father, I'm here. Start that conversation, and that day or the days following, you will be answered in a supernatural way that's just for you, and you will know there is a telephone to pick up, and that phone's been ringing for all of us, and now I know I will lead people. There's a telephone there waiting for you. Pick it up.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Give the glory to God.
Thank you, Brandon, for joining us. You're amazing. And that is it from me, Lorna Grayling and M-powerTV. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our episodes so that we can bring you more of these incredible stories. Until next week, goodbye.